Welcome once again to Sales Pipeline. So grab your board, jump in the waves, the water's fine, with Matt Heinz from Heinz Marketing.
How we doing, Paul?
Good. I didn't have a superlative today. I got to go look at my thesaurus.
I think it works better that way.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Sales Pipeline Radio. Excited to be here for another great week. We've spent a lot of time on the show talking about sales, as you might expect, for a show called Sales Pipeline Radio. Today, we're going to definitely go on the marketing side, and we're going to go deep on the technology side. Very excited to have someone who is very close to Heinz Marketing, so close he literally sits like 15 feet away from me when I'm in the office. I'm excited to have Brian Hansford here, who runs our marketing technology practice. Been with us for literally over 4 years now. It was exactly 4 years on Monday. On Monday, yeah. So it was exactly 4 years on Monday, and then over 4 years. So excited, Brian, to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Matt. Glad to be here. Honored you asked me.
Yeah. So let's start with just the overall landscape. I think that it's easy to look at Scott Brinker's landscape and say, like, boy, there are so many more companies in this space. And I think many marketers look at that and get very quickly intimidated by the choices they have. How do you recommend, like you talk to a lot of people, a lot of clients, when it comes to their technology decisions, their strategy, it seems almost like it's counterproductive to look at that list versus coming up with the strategy based on your objectives first. How do you help clients think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. If you look at a chart like that, it could be incredibly overwhelming and very confusing, and could probably freeze people up. So I think the best way to start is to actually assess your current state. What are you currently using? What tools? What workflow? What data are you currently working with? What people do you have in place? Just assess the current state and understand what your objectives are. What are the revenue objectives? What are the customer engagement objectives that you have? And use that as a starting point. Don't think about the technology first. You want to think about the business side of it first. Understand exactly what you're trying to accomplish. And then from that point, you can begin mapping, some ideas and building the initial, the straw man of a strategy on how you can implement or design a technology infrastructure to support that.
Talking here with Brian Hansford, who's a marketing technology practice lead for Heinz Marketing. And we were both down at the Marketo conference here a few weeks ago, and, lots of great tools on the show floor, lots of things going on. And I think it became very clear as you talk to people that were there, a lot of people that were there from various companies, this is intimidating. And I think too often it's easy to let the tail wag the dog, right? Where you find interesting technology and then you sort of you get excited and you buy it and you try to implement it, but it may not be the most important tool that you need. So talk a little about selection and sort of any points of criteria people should be using there.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is keep it simple to start with. You want to make sure that you have good utilization of your CRM system, whether or not that's Salesforce, whether or not that's Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Just have good utilization of that. That's most likely going to be your system of record. And then a marketing automation platform. And from there, look at what are the supporting technologies that would help you, number one, meet your objectives, would support the data collection, the data analysis that would help you with targeting customers. And then, how would you select specific technologies that would plug into that infrastructure? You don't want to select technology or niche solutions just for the sake of, a shiny object. You want to make sure that it all ties together, because ultimately, if you start buying these niche platforms, it's going to turn into a ball of gum, and it's just going to be a mess, and it's going to be really hard to measure success and keep things very well coordinated and measure what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hey, if you want to learn more about Brian and some of what he writes about, he's prolific on the Twitter. He's at remarketmarketing.com. That's R-E-Market. Or sorry, no, I got that wrong. Damn, my goodness.
It's an old Twitter handle. It's terrible branding.
No.
It's Remark Marketing. So it's at Remark Marketing. So
I almost had that right. Just went for the markets, kept going markets. So yeah, Remark Marketing is the alias. Definitely make sure you follow Brian up there. He writes pretty significantly for our blog. He writes for his own blog on LinkedIn, and he's retweeting and curating a ton of great martech features. So definitely check him out there. Brian, I think a lot of people that are doing marketing technology are also trying to figure out how to integrate that in with things that marketers are already trying to do, and then also on the sales side, trying to figure out how martech and sales tech integrates together, and in particular, how that makes a sales team more efficient. How should companies and individuals think about not only just integration of marketing and sales technology, but also how to prioritize based on helping those sales teams increase their active selling time?
Yeah, I think number one, it's really easy to think that technology will all of a sudden create this beautiful bridge between marketing and sales, number one. I think marketing technology in particular, is a great enabler, and it will help sales organizations or sales teams be even more successful in working with customers and driving revenue. But I think it's important to have, to do the heavy lifting around designing the workflows. And understanding, having common definitions around everything as simple as what is a qualified lead, what is an opportunity, what happens when something is disqualified, how is data flowing back and forth. When you see some data or a record that comes across from a marketing automation platform into Salesforce, into your lead queue in CRM, what does that mean? What is, what can sales expect from marketing? What can marketing expect from sales? Those, a lot of those steps don't really require technology. It's understanding how the teams work together up front, and then the technology should enable that process.
We're talking with Brian Hansford, head of marketing technology for Heinz Marketing, and one of the things I've learned a lot from Brian about, when it comes to martech, and we've had plenty of fun discussions about even kind of proposals for clients about things that can be done quickly and quick wins, and we can quickly build things. And Brian has done a great job of sort of teaching me that not everything can be done that quickly, and sometimes that's for good reason. Talk a little bit about the need for process and systems when it comes to marketing technology, and I think it's not about getting things as quick to market as possible. Sometimes if you understand what works and you want to create a repeatable, scalable, predictable system that's going to drive, revenue and drive business moving forward, there's no substitute for doing the planning and doing the system setup and the process work that sometimes takes time, but it certainly pays off, in the short term as well as the long term.
I don't know how many times I've had organizations that will spend thousands of dollars investing in a very powerful marketing automation platform and maybe some other complementary technologies, and they fall back on just doing batch and blast email sends. And so what they have is a very overpowered email marketing system, and all they're doing is batch and blast email sends. Whereas if they were to take that extra bit of time and even come up with some ideas for some initial sprint campaigns that had some basic workflows, when you have a certain number of touches with email, what sort of interactions can you expect, what happens with certain interactions, what you do with those, how would you process those with sales. Keep it simple up front and then learn from that. But just going right into, execution, there are a couple things that's going to happen. First off, you're going to fall back on the old habits, and secondly, you're going to significantly underutilize your tools, and then you'll be in worse shape than before you even invested in any of those platforms.
Before we head a commercial here in a second, it's interesting to think about some of the other companies that are doing this really well. We get this question a lot, like what companies are doing a really nice job with marketing technology. And it's not about having the biggest technology stack. It's about sort of having, I think, sometimes the stack that helps sales and marketing professionals do the best work. Who are some of the companies that you think are particularly doing a nice job with martech, and why?
Yeah, I think there's a few companies that come to mind. I mean, probably the number one company and one of the best leaders, I think, out there with marketing technology in general is Megan Eisenberg. She built an incredible operation at DocuSign, and she's taken that with her over to MongoDB. Just learning how she has architected a stack workflow and driven that to drive results. I learned a ton from her. She's just a fantastic leader, very smart. That's that's an optimal situation. I think there are companies like Concur, that's an SAP company that's headquartered in Bellevue, and then there's another company in Seattle that does fantastic work that's Tableau. They have a very efficient marketing operations environment that aligns with their objectives and how their customers engage. They make smart decisions on the right technologies to use, how to manage their data, the content that they produce, and how to engage with sales. So they're very good models to follow. And then, there are just a lot of companies that are trying to figure this out. We're all trying to figure this out. There's no black and white, picture-perfect blueprint on this. So there's a lot going on, a lot of learnings that are going on, and I'm learning something new every day with this.
It's awesome. If you want to read more stuff from Brian, especially related to martech, definitely check out the Heinz Marketing blog. You'll find a lot of great pieces he's written there on a variety of different topics, everything from marketing automation to predictive marketing to attribution. Brian is a regular on the martech experts to watch lists. And published one of his own, actually, just a couple months, it was last month, published a list of the top 30 most influential women in B2B marketing technology. Certainly has Megan Eisenberg on that list, but a lot of other really interesting people that are worth following. And I think not only people that are doing the work and walking the walk, but also, more broadly, people like Scott Brinker, and others that are doing a lot of really interesting thinking around martech and have some great things. We've got Brian Hansford here, who runs our marketing technology practice at Heinz Marketing. We're going to be back. We'll talk a little more with Brian, talk about what's coming up in the next few episodes of the show. You've been listening to Sales Pipeline Radio.
You are under the gun to generate revenue. You need your pipeline full with real deals to make your number. The Vanilla Group is the only firm that delivers tele-based lead generation programs exclusively for enterprise technology providers that get you there. The Vanilla Group achieves results 5 times higher than industry standards for outbound lead generation year after year. By utilizing the unique telesales 2.0 methodology, they make sure you're in front of the key influencers you need to be. They are an award-winning company and results are unsurpassed. The Vanilla Group supports tech firms from Fortune 500 companies to startups. To learn more, visit vanillagroup.com, spelled V-A-N-E-L-L-A group.com, or call 888-335-0340. That's 888-335-0340. Follow us on Twitter at Vanilla Group.
In a world where the speed of innovation and change in B2B marketing has never been greater, the only thing bigger is the need for clarity, for a blueprint, for a guide to what's really working and how to make it apply specifically to increase sales pipeline growth, velocity, and conversion. That's what you'll find in the Modern Marketer's Field Guide, something you should have in your back pocket right now. If you don't, you can download it for free at HeinzMarketing.com. That's HEINZ marketing.com. It encompasses the entire sales and marketing pipeline, but in quick bursts with lots of specific, actionable ideas and strategies and tactics you can put to work right away, like today. The loaded table of contents helps you narrow in and tackle a problem. Maybe something you're looking at right now on your desk, right in front of you as you're listening to this. It's also there as a resource that you can come back when you need something new to inspire you, to open your eyes, to give you some task or idea to do next. It's all that and more, and it's waiting for you free. The Modern Marketer's Field Guide at HeinzMarketing.com. That's HEINZ marketing.com. All right, back to Matt Heinz and his discussion about marketing.
Thank you, Paul. Well, thanks everyone again for joining us. It's really exciting to continue to see our listener numbers grow. Thanks so much for joining us, whether you are listening live on SLMR Radio or if you're listening to us on the podcast. You can definitely download every episode of Sales Pipeline Radio either on the iTunes Store or Google Play. Also, check out salespipelineradio.com. You can get all past episodes with some of our great guests that we've had. If you're interested in hearing a replay of our conversation with Brian Hansford today, it'll be up there in its full glory, and we'll have a transcript of the conversation on the blog at HeinzMarketing.com as well. Have some really great guests coming up over the next couple weeks. Next week, we're featuring Cedric Hill who has written a new book called Expert Selling, A Blueprint to Accelerate Sales Excellence. A great speaker, lots of great ideas, high energy, some really good things. I think if you're in sales or work with sales, you're going to want to hear that. As we head into July, we've got some great guests. We've got Arden Cleese. I've mentioned her before. Her new book is called Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth. She is an expert in business etiquette, which is important in all different kind of business formats. Not just, if you're in front of people, but if you have inside salespeople, I highly recommend you listen to Arden. She just got some great stuff. And a couple weeks after that, we're going to have Joe Chernoff, who runs marketing at Insight Squared, has been in the marketing industry for a long, long time. And, Brian, definitely another guy who's very, very big into martech and does a lot of great stuff with their Marketo instance and other tools that they have. Who are some of the other people that you learn from and that you listen to? Who are whether it's bloggers or writers or practitioners? You mentioned Megan Eisenberg, and I mentioned Scott Brinker before. Like, who are some of the people that you're watching on a regular basis?
Oh man, so there's so many, but and actually, a great list to look at is something that Integrate just published yesterday. There's a top 40 demand generation marketers that was listed. And I would say that from a martech perspective, the majority of the people on that list that Integrate published are fantastic to follow and learn from. I would say about 90% of them are active on social. But folks that I learn from continually, guys like Alex Shapilio with Influitive, the Vidyard marketing team, all of those guys at Vidyard are fantastic. They publish fantastic content. Adam at Lean Data he's a master at what he does. Are folks like Josh Hill, who is a Marketo wizard, Ed Runthank, who's a Marketo wizard as well. But not only on the technology side, they also have very keen understanding of business process. There's a number of individuals that I follow, and then there's some great people like Kristen Connell, Marilyn Cox, Megan Eisenberg, who I've mentioned previously, Kay Canast. A lot of the people that I've actually published lists on are people that I actively follow. So those are all individuals that I learn from. One of the things I really enjoy is they love to share information, and it's a collaborative, almost community, because we're all trying to figure this out and learn as we're going. And I think that's really interesting and it's something I really enjoy.
Yeah, what I love about the list that you gave is, there's some people there that have some fairly high profiles, but there's a lot of people that are just in the trenches doing the work. And I think that, that top 40 list from Integrate that was published yesterday, you can go to integrate.com and, look for that. You'll probably see it up at the top of their blog. There's a lot of people on that list that are doing nothing to make a name for themselves, could care less about it, but are just in the trenches doing really good work. And what I love about a lot of those folks and a lot of the people Brian mentioned is they share the best practices, but they're also pretty open in the martech community at sharing the worst practices, the things they have tried that haven't worked. And I think there's an awful lot of pitfalls for people that are both new to martech and those that are experienced that we certainly don't need to repeat if other people have fallen on their sword on that in the past. What are some, and again, let's go down that path. We talk a lot about things you should do. You laid out a nice blueprint and sort of guideline for things to focus on, guideposts as you build a martech strategy. What are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the worst practices? What are things that people should avoid as they navigate the martech waters?
Yeah, I think there's two things that always come to mind whenever I'm either talking with folks or even working with our clients. There are two elements that fuel a marketing technology initiative and ultimately help you drive revenue. And one of them, the most important piece, I think, is data. If you have crappy data, you're going to have even worse results. And then the second is content. If you don't have content that resonates with your audience at wherever they are with any sort of a decision-making process, you're going to fall flat. You don't have anything to engage your audience with. But the data side, even with all of these fantastic tools that we have and these platforms, data continues to be the number one issue I see that organizations struggle with. They either ignore it and just deal with very poor data in their database systems, or they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to manage it and keep it maintained and help them with the segmentation and the targeting and who they're trying to reach, why they would want to reach somebody with certain information. If you don't have that taken care of, you're just going to fall flat. So that's hugely important, and I think it's an area that's overlooked. And then content, we all know this. We've talked about this for years, right? But it's I still see organizations that struggle with content and reaching an audience with the right content, right time, targeting the right people with the right content, and it's just you're going to fall flat. You're not going to get any results. You could have the best marketing technology infrastructure in the world, but if you have terrible data and poor content, you're going to fall flat.
Talking here on Sales Pipeline Radio today with Brian Hansford, who's the marketing technology practice lead for Heinz Marketing, has been in the martech space for a very long time. And as martech goes, it doesn't go that far back, but Brian's been there and doing that. Definitely encourage you to follow him on Twitter. He's at remarkmarketing.com. I think I got that right this time.
Right this
nice. All right. Second time charm. remarkmarketing.com. Also highly encouraged. Check him out on LinkedIn. If you send him a request, definitely make sure it's personalized, but he publishes a lot of great stuff on LinkedIn that's definitely worth checking out. You see moving forward, I think the landscape continues to grow. More and more companies are entering the space. It's not getting any less intimidating. But, in terms of focus areas, you've talked in the past about certain pillars, things that you think are more important. I certainly hear when you sort of ask people about like what are their primary needs around marketing, I hear attribution come up all the time. What are a couple things that you see as, whether someone's working in martech or not, even if they're not a martech, person who's doing it day to day, for people that are impacted or have to manage marketing technology, what should they be looking for in the months and quarters ahead?
I'm a big fan of attribution, and not because I want to measure all things just for the sake of measuring, but I want to be able to measure what works and what doesn't and understand what has the best impact. And cumulatively, when you have all kinds of touches over a long period of time, all of those touches are going to help drive some revenue. How do you measure those all together? So I think attribution tools and platforms are incredibly important. I think there's also analytics platforms or tools that can help with helping organizations focus their selling efforts. So if that means some predictive tools, that's great. We've all heard a ton around account-based marketing, or maybe tools or companies like Engagio calling it account-based everything. I love this model. It's not new, but we have some technology that is enabling it. We're better able to focus our efforts on targeting different people within an organization, right message, right time, to help drive a purchase decision. So I think that's fantastic, and I'm very excited about that. And some of the results we're actually seeing with different tools with clients are very encouraging. But I also think, there's going to be some pullback, actually. I'm seeing some things where I think the marketing technology landscape has been it's grown so rapidly, and then we're getting so many niche solutions going on that I think CMOs and marketing departments are like, okay, where can we just really focus on this core stack to help us be very effective and also prove or measure what we're being effective with. Those are a few areas that I'm looking at right now I think are really interesting.
I think that's really good advice. And the one thing I think I heard you mention a few different times in a few different ways is to be intentional and deliberate about building your martech stack. I think sometimes it's really easy to go buy a new solution and get bright, shiny object syndrome when you go onto the Marketo floor, the Dreamforce floor. But to be intentional about what problems you're solving, where are the bottlenecks in your sales and marketing process, be deliberate in terms of selecting and then rolling out that technology. Make sure that it's something that you effectively roll out, that people know how to use, that people are actively using. And then one other thing that we're starting to see, now that the martech space is maturing more, we're starting to see more people ask for and come to us for what essentially is a marketing technology audit. Right, where they're saying, hey, we're not really sure what we should be using, but we're also not sure whether we're using the stuff that we have. A tool that was kind of novel a couple of years ago, maybe something that's table stakes, and you actually are now buying 5 times over. So understanding what you have, what you need, what is going to be important for you moving forward can help make your overall martech more effective, more efficient, easier to manage, and all of those things. So, I want to thank Brian Hansford for joining us today. A little bit on short notice. Appreciate it. I know you've got a crazy busy day. It's probably partly my fault. Brian is the marketing technology director for Heinz Marketing. Definitely hit him up on Twitter, remarkmarketing.com. He is a font of knowledge around martech and all things B2B marketing. Join us next week. As I mentioned, we're going to be featuring Cedric Hill, who's the author of Expert Selling, a blueprint to accelerate sales success. If you want to hear more from Brian and want to hear more from this conversation, he had a lot of great insights, a lot of great blueprint for how to think about martech. You'll get a replay of this event on salespipelineradio.com. Download every episode on the podcast at iTunes or the Google Play. You'll see I have a transcript. All of our episodes up on HeinzMarketing.com. You can check out. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you next week. This has been Sales Pipeline Radio.
You've been riding the surf with Matt Heinz from Heinz Marketing and the Sales Pipeline.